comic book junkies, it's the Frog Queen here, and today I'm coming at you with another comic book review. Today I'm reviewing a new Image comic series by Sloan Lone called PRISM STALKER. PRISM STALKER number 1 is available in a comic shop near you on March 7th, so let's just get on with the review. PRISM STALKER runs in the vein of a biopunk horror science fiction adventure following main character Vep, a refugee who's been raised on an asteroid after the devastation of her home planet. She is forced to work on the asteroid for an insectoid species carrying and harvesting for their young for them. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the artwork. The artwork is immediately what drew me to the comic. I have been following the work of Sloan for quite some time, and when I saw the initial artwork posted on Instagram, I knew I had to read this book. The entire book is illustrated in vibrant colors of pink, purple, blues, and yellows, and it has a neon quality without being neon. It even comes with its own suggested soundtrack, with a specific track created and released for each issue. It's interesting how music is woven into the story, with Vep and her people having a sort of power through song and melodies. Also, I wanted to talk about the concept of gender, which is pretty blurry within this comic, and that I noticed that right away with characters often appearing androgynous. Although Vep is referred to as female, it wasn't immediately apparent to me that she is, and I really liked that as a female, she is drawn outside of the normal comic book female body ideals. She's broad-shouldered and strong without being full ample-bosomed and bummed. Something that I also really appreciated about the first issue was Vep's internal monologue speaking about the loss of heritage and tradition, a connection to their homeworld and gods. With the loss of their planet, Vep feels her culture slipping away and being torn from her at every turn. As she attempts to keep little bits of it to herself, they are taken away from her. Such events parallel real-world problems for refugees and the result of colonialization, colonialized areas of the world. Colonial takeover of North America had devastating effects for Native American cultures, not only in genocidal sorts of things, being the extreme, but also in a cultural genocide through dilution. And I think it's a fairly easy parallel to see in the story, and it's really a very brave concept to tackle in this book, especially when you consider all the things that are being talked about right now in the world. For me, in my hometown, we are just now beginning to tear down a statue of our founder of our city, whose history has only recently been made completely public, and this founder had offered reward to anyone who slayed Mi'kmaq residents of Nova Scotia, and that was the local tribe at the time in the early 1700s. Debate has been raging for the last couple of years to have the Cornwallis statue removed from our public gardens, and this has just been achieved as of this week, which I consider a victory, but it's still very controversial. Apparently, however, that statue represents somebody who put a bounty on the heads of over 120,000 Mi'kmaq residents at the time. This was in the early 1700s, and so they think it was about 120,000 Mi'kmaq residents that were murdered at the time because of this man. Anyway, it's just a little slice of what's going on in my end of the world and kind of how I related to this book. Anyways, moving on. Although not much is told to us about Vep's homeworld thus far in the story, I can't help but wonder what had happened there and if it mirrors events like genocide, which has been active all throughout our own history here on Earth. Off of the serious topics now, let's talk aliens. The book is loaded with interesting life forms. You'll get to see all kinds of aliens that don't look remotely humanoid, and I find that the most interesting. All the beasts have sentience and intelligence, their own customs and understandings, and this becomes apparent as Vep struggles to interact passive and sometimes not so passively within her surroundings. Sloan is also working on a new book to be released by First Second called A Map to the Sun, and I recommend following Sloan on Twitter. It's at Sloan for updates on that book. And well, I think that does it for this review. Please give this video a thumbs up and share it on Facebook. It really does help get the word out. Don't forget to follow me on social media, links in the description below. Check out my most recent videos. I've just posted an interview with Bill Dalrymple on his latest series, and until next time, read something big.